I have another announcement or two. This is for March 1st, and this is our, I guess it's fair enough to call it, a sister group. Liberty Chalkboard is having a forum on faith, family, and freedom. You can go to the Liberty Chalkboard website, which is libertychalkboard.org, am I correct? And you can see the flyer, get all the information you need. March 1st, speaking will be Dr. Paul Jaley and Michael King. And there's going to be a lot of information there that is sorely needed to be spread. Linda, is there anything else we should say about that?
Did you mention the place?
No, I did not.
That's what I was wondering.
Is that at the Falmouth Public Library on 300 Main Street in Falmouth, where we used to have our movie nights, for those of you who attended those. Use the back entrance, the Catherine Lee Bates Road entrance.
What time?
Thank you. 7 o'clock to 9 o'clock. All right. Next announcement. Many of you know that Paul Jaley was scheduled to speak to this group for the January meeting, but he came down with bronchitis and pneumonia, and so had to cancel. But we've rescheduled Paul for the March meeting next month. And, we hope he'll attend. We hope he'll join us online. Paul gives a great talk. You all know that. Now, tonight's proceedings, we decided to do something a little bit different. And that is to administer the citizenship exam. We thought not only would this be mildly educational, but it would be fun. And let me tell you how the evening's going to go. First of all, I'll tell you that people who are naturalizing as U.S. citizens, as part of the naturalization process, they take a 10-question exam. And they have to score 6 out of 10 to pass it. When I went to school, 6 out of 10 was 60%, and it was an F. You didn't pass with a 60 back then. But it's good enough for the citizenship exam. Well, we hope you'll all do better than that tonight. So those 10 questions are drawn from a pool of about 100, I'm told. And you can find those 100 questions online, and I did. And I picked out 25 of what I thought were the more interesting ones, or the ones that made you think a little bit more anyway, or that had a little humor to them, or that we could conjure up a little humor about, and just will be interesting to discuss at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to pass out the exam in a couple of minutes. We'll have 25 minutes to complete the exam. For those of you who are viewing online, we're going to have somebody read the questions about every minute. Somebody will get up and, at a good pace, read the questions one at a time. So get your pens and tablets for those of you who are watching online. If you're there from Scotland, maybe you could be a U.S. citizen tonight. You never know. Now, then after the exam is done, we're going to take a little break. We're going to have some coffee and cake. But Pam will read the questions so that the online audience will get it. And the rest of the gang will be here if there's any assistance needed. And then, like I say, I'll be back in 10 minutes or so. Question? No, you may not use the Constitution to answer these questions. You may not use crib notes. You may not use any cheat slips. I hope you don't have anything tattooed on your arm that will give you answers. A number of these, let me just read this introductory paragraph to you because it about says it all, or at least part of it. So again, the 10 questions are drawn from a pool of 100. Below is a sampling of 25 of those 100 possible exam questions. Beware, we the people of Cape Cod will hold you to a higher standard than a grade of D, or F as the case may be. And some of these questions have asterisks next to them, and that's because those questions represent subjects that were either featured in this class or were at least mentioned prominently during the course of our Constitution lessons by different speakers. So, if Pam will pass out the exam, I will disappear for 10 minutes to get coffee. To those of you online, I'm very sorry you may not have cake and coffee with us, but you will have time to jump up and maybe make some instant coffee at home. Pam's got that under control?
Who did the United States fight in World War II?
out loud?
Number 2 is what territory did the United States buy from France in 1803? Number 3, under our Constitution, some powers belong to the federal government. What is one of the powers of the federal government? Number 4, name one war fought by the United States in the 1800s. Number 5, what is the supreme law of the land? Number 6, there were 13 original states, named 3. Number 7, name 2 national U.S. holidays. Number 8, the Federalist Papers supported the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Name one of the writers. Number 9, who is the Chief Justice of the United States now? Number 10, why does the flag have 13 stripes? Number 11, name one of the 2 longest rivers in the United States. Number 12, what do we call the first 10 amendments to the Constitution? Number 13, under our Constitution, some powers belong to the states. What is one power of the states? Number 14, There are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. Describe one of them.
Pam, did you tell everybody that if they're caught cheating, their citizenship will be revoked?
If you're caught cheating, your citizenship will be revoked, it says.
But not the right to vote.
Right, you can still vote. You can still vote 3 or 4 times, but you won't be a citizen.
Number 15, what is one responsibility that is only for the United States citizens? Number 16, name one American Indian tribe in the United States. Number 17, what is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? Number 18, the idea of self-government is in the first 3 words of the Constitution. What are these words? Number 19, name one U.S. territory. Number 20, how many amendments does the Constitution have? Number 21, what did the Emancipation Proclamation do? Number 22, when must all men register for the Selective Service? Number 23, how many justices are on the Supreme Court?
Yes, sir, no whispering during the exam.
Number 24, when was the Constitution written?
Yesterday. I mean, that's, but.
And number 25, name one right only for United States citizens.
Didn't do as well as I thought. Because the class more on.
And now, for the bonus question. What is the name of the President of the United States now?
No, we should know that.
Yes, we should.
Just on the other day.
Can't help but know it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else in here who needs more time with this exam? Okay, then please turn your papers over and put your pencils down. This is great. This is like the old days for me. the only thing I didn't get to do is to march up and down the aisles with my hands behind my back looking ominous. So there's nobody in here that finds me threatening anyway, so it would be useless. Okay, so Mike, you think I should read through them for the online? You know what I'm going to do? Why don't we take a break? We're going to self-grade the exams.
You're going to do
Yes, we are. Because Pam refused to do it. So let's take a break. There's coffee back there and cake and cookies and I think some hot chocolate. Please go help yourselves. I'm going to take a minute or two to read the questions to the online audience again. Please go back and have some cake. There's lots of everything there. Enjoy it. Chat.
Rod got 100%.
Oh, I don't want to hear any braggarts.
I was keeping track of all of his answers. You got them already.
Okay.
He's the one in Utah that I had you send the email to.
All right, we'll give everybody a second to just get their minds geared up. This was a very, very difficult exam. But I tried to pick out the most fun ones that I possibly could. And I also tried to pick out a few where we could add a tidbit or two of information that you can actually take away from this instead of just reading through things that this group knows.
To be honest, if you just got here from, Pakistan or the Philippines or
Yeah.
the mountains of Guatemala, it's a lot.
Well, it is.
I'm impressed. I got about 3 wrong.
It is,
Or
but
questionable.
the thing is that if you're studying for this,
Yeah.
all of the questions are available to you in advance.
Yeah,
So it doesn't take, and
but it's really getting into the mindset where you've got this material.
yeah. Also, let me just add that I chose, if there were difficult questions to be had on this exam, I chose the 25 most difficult,
Okay.
because some of them said things like, like the last one, the bonus question, I didn't pull that out of my hat. That was actually a question on the exam. And I just thought it'd be very enjoyable to have people write down the answer. But they're all, out of the pool of 100, there were other questions like, who's your governor now? Who's your senator now? And so, when you get down to congressmen, some people don't know, but most people know who their governor is. So there were a lot of questions like that. And if you want, and this goes for you folks online too, no, you don't have to subscribe or send $1. If you want to email me, at markallegro@yahoo.com, I'll send you the pool of 100 questions.
Yep.
I think I actually lost one, so I only have 99. But you'll see that most of them are very, very easy, and that these were the most interesting, in some cases more difficult. So, I picked this first one. Who did the United States fight in World War II? Because the people who put the exam together and put the answers key together, they give you the obvious answers, but there are other answers to this too. So, the answers that they'll accept include Japan, Germany, and Italy, of course. But there were some other countries that were dragged into World War II on the side of the Axis powers, either by coercion, by coercion one way or the other, and that included Bulgaria and Croatia, and there's probably a couple of others as well.
Turkey.
Say that again?
Turkey.
Turkey is another one, that's right. So, so the answers that most people would have, and the simple ones that the examiners take for answers are Japan, Germany, and Italy, but we can add Bulgaria, Turkey, and Croatia to that. Number 2, so grade yourself. Remember, you got to get 6 out of 10, or your citizenship is going to be revoked. Even if you're watching this from the UK.
We got 25 questions.
Yeah, you will have no chance of becoming a citizen in this country if you fail this test here today. What territory did the United States buy from France in 1803?
Louisiana.
Louisiana Territory, however you want to say it. Under our Constitution, some powers belong to the federal government. What's one power of the federal government? Now, the examiners give 4 answers, but everybody in this room knows that there's far more than that. So, powers belonging to the federal government include printing money, declaring war, create an army, making treaties. But as we've seen in this class, the federal government also had the power to form a federal court system. Remember that when we discussed the federal courts? Of course, to collect taxes. And so basically, if you think of any power of the presidency in Article 1, or, Article 2, or any power of did I get that right? Yeah. Any power given to either of the 3 branches of government in Articles 1, 2, and 3, that would be a power of the federal government. So that could be answered in a lot of different ways. Name one war fought by the United States in the 1800s.
About 4, right?
What's that?
About 4 different wars. starting
That's
in
correct.
1812.
Let's have one of the answers.
War of 1812.
That's correct. That's an obvious one.
Civil War.
That's right.
That's right. Spanish
Mexican-American War.
American and the
Spanish
American.
That's right. So the 4 are the War of 1812, the Mexican-American War, Civil War, also known as the war between Democrats and Republicans, which probably is a better description of it. And I kid you not, we went over that in this class too, and the Spanish-American War. So if you said any of those 4, War of 1812, Mexican-American War, Civil War, Spanish-American War, you got credit for that. What is the supreme law of the land? I had to put that one in, everybody in this class. Okay, there were 13 original states. Name 3.
Here, Mass.
Virginia, Georgia,
Rhode Island.
New York, New Jersey, New Hampshire, Rhode
That's right.
Island.
They're all coming. You guys know.
Well, what are the ones that people might make goof on?
All right.
Maine and
Maine and Vermont.
Well, so New Hampshire, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New York. New Jersey is one people might forget.
Yep, yep.
Uh,
Jersey was one.
Pennsylvania is one that people will remember because they'll think of Ben Franklin.
Yeah,
Delaware,
Maryland,
Maryland, and Virginia. I think nobody would.
yeah,
Yes.
Did I say Georgia?
South Carolina.
Yes, I'm sorry. North Carolina, South Carolina, and Georgia.
Georgia was the last one.
That's right.
Well, yeah.
Name 2 national U.S. holidays.
4th of July, Memorial
Independence
Day.
Day,
Veterans Day.
Thanksgiving,
That's right. Okay, I'm hearing them, so let me read off the list. There's New Year's Day,
really.
Pres- yeah, President's Day,
Right.
Memorial Day, and for those of you who, if there happens to be anybody from overseas watching this, President's Day is probably a relatively tasteless amalgamation of Lincoln's birthday and Washington's birthday, both in February, and they put them together, changed the name to President's Day, so one might think we're honoring all presidents. I'm not even going to comment further than that. Memorial Day, Independence Day, Martin Luther King Day, Labor Day, Columbus Day. Do we? Isn't that
Thanksgiving.
Columbus Day? Do we still honor? Yes, we do.
Yeah. But we may
It's
not
the
call
na-
it the
It's the
same
day of national mourning to some
Oh,
people.
some people
It's
it's
one of those
indigenous
23-day
people.
weekend holidays.
Yeah, right.
It's moved to a-
Veterans Day,
Thanks.
Thanksgiving, and here's the real reason I put this question in here.
Christmas.
Christmas. That's exactly right.
It's not a national holiday.
Yes, it is.
It
Oh, it
is.
is?
It is, yeah. At least according to these people, and I believe them.
Okay, fine.
So that's why I put that one in.
I put down Thanksgiving, but I seem to recall that it only was actually made an official national holiday in the 20s or 30s.
You know,
A lot
I
of
think it
proclamations
might have been
over
Lincoln.
Lincoln.
It might have been Lincoln who made an official national holiday. Because he was hounded by a woman journalist,
Right.
and finally, I think it was Lincoln. 8, the Federalist Papers supported the passage of the U.S. Constitution. Name one of the writers. Call it out.
James
John
Madison.
Jay. I just wanted to get the least known one.
That's right. John Jay, well, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton,
Yeah.
and probably the one who's least known is John Jay, otherwise known as,
First, he's justice of the Supreme Court.
well, but he used a pseudonym. Publius, that's right.
Everybody used Publius.
What's that?
I thought they all went.
Three of them
Publius.
did.
No.
Yeah,
You're not supposed to
I,
be able to guess which one was writing which one, at least when they were in the newspaper.
well, at least the way it's told in this set of answers, it was John Jay, but it could be Oldham.
Well, John Jay was the one that was up here in New York politician.
Yes.
Okay, him and Hamilton, but John Jay is, John Jay had a grandfather, who didn't speak English, he only spoke Dutch.
No, I didn't know that. So, see that? People learned tonight. John Jay's grandfather only spoke Dutch. Who is the chief, see here, who is the Chief Justice of the United States now? John Roberts. And I just asked that one because you know that's in the news a lot these days, and I have a feeling will be in the news a lot more in the coming days. Why does the flag have 13 stripes?
13,
Signify
Right.
the original 13 states.
Ooh, those were big words. He says to signify the original 13 states.
Actually,
Whoa.
for their version of the flag, they added the stripes.
We're gonna take a
along
half a
with the
credit off for
stars
that.
When they added more states, but after, so far, it would gotten ridiculous, so they went back to the original 13.
Yep.
But some of the early flags, they have like 20 stripes.
Yep. Okay, everybody in here, well, no, wait, we got one more bit. Now, this is one where people might not get both of these, but name one of the 2 longest rivers in the United States. That's right, I forgot the Missouri when I did this.
I said Ohio.
Yeah, so it's the Missouri and the Mississippi. What do we call the first 10 amendments of the Constitution?
Bill of Rights.
That's right. The Bill of Rights, for those of you online. Under our Constitution, some powers belong to the states. What is one power of the state other than taxing carbon in Massachusetts?
I just said regulating inside the state commons.
Yeah, so this is another one of those questions
And
where
after
there's...
Ricker v. Filburn, that's a distinction without a difference.
Right, so this is another one of those questions where there could be lots of answers. The answers that they give, there's about 5 of them, are provide schooling and education, provide protection, that's the police.
Banning plastic straws.
Yeah, provide safety, that's the fire departments, give a license, a driver's
Thank you,
license, approve zoning and land use, but as you people online are hearing from the audience here, banning plastic straws,
Came from online.
yeah, creating bullet trains that go nowhere, run over costs, and then get
State tax.
canceled. Right,
State taxation.
right.
Well, back in the day, I think it was like 8 colonies had state-run churches or state-approved churches, which
It did.
eventually it's gone now, but.
That's because the theory was the 14th Amendment required the states to follow more or less the Bill of Rights, whereas the Bill of Rights was only regulating federal power.
Yeah, okay. So,
Yeah, the interpretation.
there are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. This we went over specifically in one of our last ones from 2018, one of our last lessons. There are 4 amendments to the Constitution about who can vote. Describe one of them.
The woman's right to vote.
Woman's right to vote?
Which one?
It's
What was the
citizen.
number on
What
that?
was,
I don't recall off.
yeah,
Age 18.
I think it was the
Voting
19th
at
Amendment.
18
It was done almost at the same time as Prohibition.
Right, so I remember roughly the years, but I don't remember the
Yeah.
Like
numbers
the
right now.
18th and the 20th Amendment.
You don't have to pay a poll tax, that came out as part of the Reconstruction Amendments.
Okay.
So that was like in
The
1865, 1866,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's-
Lowering the voting age to 17 was done by amendment or by statute?
What's
No,
that?
it's amendment.
It's amendment.
It was part of the amendment, part of
25th, I think.
the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments. Any citizen can vote, women and men. Citizens 18 and older can vote. That was relatively recently, I think that was about 1979, 76, something like that. No, earlier, that's right, because it was,
I
During
think
the
it
Vietnam War.
factored in the 72 election, but nothing before that.
yeah, and a male citizen of any race. And again, that was one of the Reconstruction Amendments.
Yeah.
What is one responsibility? Now, it's funny because they put this, pretty much the same question in here
Yeah, that
in
was
2 different ways.
Right, that's what I thought.
And but they're both separate questions on the citizenship exam. But I chose to put them both in here because I just wanted to emphasize, and I know you people will appreciate that. What is one responsibility that is only for United States citizens?
Voting.
That's right.
Federal election.
To serve on a jury or to vote in a federal election.
Until you hit 70.
Did anybody read recently that the Texas Attorney General has identified the fact that there were 95,000 illegal aliens registered to vote in Texas?
Saw that.
And that over half of them have voted at least once? Yeah,
Were they illegal aliens or green card holders?
no, they were illegal aliens. No,
You would think they would be ID'd if they had a green card, so they couldn't do it.
yeah, having not looked at that article for a handful of days, but I'm pretty sure they were illegal aliens. But in any case, they were illegal votes.
Yeah.
Yeah, question.
It hadn't occurred to me until just now. The first question was going to be, do states have the right to expand their qualifications, their boundaries for voting in their state?
I think this is undetermined.
The 14th Amendment and the other ones you listed impose that they may not restrict it beyond certain bounds. Race, age,
May they
poll tax,
expand it?
and
Well,
sex.
but I mean, these,
Well, let me finish my statement. So the feds have insisted sequentially that the states cannot constrict it, but may they expand it to include, say, green card holders for strictly state offices? Is that going on? I assume that
It's,
the.
to my knowledge,
illegal
it's not
voting-
going on at the state level, but
Maybe at
there
the
are
municipal level.
several, at least 3 or 4 jurisdictions in the country that have expanded it to non-citizens. For instance, San Francisco
Gotcha.
now lets them vote in local elections,
I
non-citizens.
assume that if
Okay.
the state wanted to prohibit women to vote in a state election, they technically have the authority to do so.
If they wanted, well,
If it's in a state election, not in a federal.
I think what would happen is they'd probably face a challenge under unequal protection laws.
Yeah, they might, but.
So, but yes, you're right. Okay, name one American Indian tribe in the United States.
Navajo.
There won't be-
Cherokee, the only one that counts right now.
Yeah, this list was long,
National public.
and I actually cut a couple off, and I think Navajo was one of the couple that I cut off, but I'll just read through the list that I have. There's about 15 here. Arawak, Shawnee, Mohegan, Huron, Oneida, Lakota, Seminole, Crow, Hopi, Inuit, Cherokee, there's Navajo, Sioux, Chippewa, Pueblo, Apache, Iroquois, Creek, Blackfeet, and there were a couple that I cut off just so that I would save paper.
Well, the point is that there are a lot of tribal names, but those are the ones that are officially recognized.
Correct.
Like, for instance, even now the Wampanoags, I don't think are officially.
They were not on this list, that's right.
So does Wampanoag not count? 'Cause-
They were not on this list, that's the only thing I
It's
can,
difficult to determine what makes it a
Well, the
Wampanoag.
Narragansett.
they might have been on this list. Like I said, I cut a few off because it's a long list, and I was trying to keep it from spilling over to the next page.
Since we're worrying about points, I have a question on.
Oh, there's always one of those in the
number five,
class.
Which I couldn't resolve for myself. What is the supreme law of the land? I have a vague recollection that someplace or another, the federal law is considered as having supremacy over state law.
Yeah, no,
No,
this is
that's the
supremacy clause of
Constitution.
Constitution.
Beg pardon? Yeah.
Well, if you said federal
What
law,
is that?
and I were grading this exam, I would give it to you.
But
Because
point
the
is,
Constitution
It
is,
has that because the Constitution is supreme over everything and it's pronounced.
I would give you half credit for that. Okay? There's always somebody trying to weasel out a couple of points, you know? All right, what is one right or freedom from the First Amendment? Now, first of all, our rights and freedoms are not from the First Amendment. So I would rephrase this question to say, what is one right or freedom enshrined in, or,
Acknowledged by.
all right, speech,
Press.
unless you're a conservative. Religion, unless you're a Christian. Assembly, unless you're a conservative. Press, they could do whatever the hell they want.
They do.
And petition the government,
Okay,
okay? So if you have one of those,
that's a good one.
you got a point. You got, well, 4 points, I guess it is, right? Yeah, question? Oh, he's got the Constitution out.
Yeah. I think that Massachusetts was once, it's a moot point now, but Massachusetts was once protected in having an establishment of religion.
Yeah, yes.
Oh,
Yeah, you used to be governor in the original 1787 Constitution, which was mostly John Adams. You had to be a member of the Congregationalist Church. You had to be a congregant. But see,
Okay.
the problem is
They didn't want.
that those things which the states did, which they did not think the 10 amendments to the Constitution regulated them, only the federal government. Later, not everything, for instance, they're still fighting over the Second Amendment, okay? Later, they were decided that the 14th Amendment made them operative to the states as a whole. Just like the states could not deny the franchise to a black man because he was, okay, or deprive him of his property via the 14th Amendment, they had a phrase, called the incorporation doctrine.
Well, that's a figment of,
Well, it's a judicial thing, but the thing was that the federal government did in fact, in the 14th Amendment, order the states to follow certain, they couldn't deprive life or property based on race. That's what the 14th Amendment said. So other judges said that means also
So that doesn't repeal the
or
First
you
Amendment.
can't establish a
There's
church.
nothing in there about repealing the First Amendment.
No, the Article 6 specifies no religious
Test.
Test.
test. And,
That's a whole
Well-
other subject.
But that's
Well,
still, again,
That's
that's
different from
Could I speak
from a
first?
state established religion.
well,
Also, it would appear obvious that
That's what this is
Congress
about.
couldn't establish religion either.
the Bill of Rights was about the federal government. It's only later that they've used that to impede the states. For instance, the press freedoms were not
But
necessarily
the First Amendment
enshrined
was
in the state.
specifically written to guarantee the states, not to interfere with the states in that section.
okay, so the 14th Amendment has been interpreted, whether that's fairly or not.
Oh, yeah, the Second
To
Amendment has
use-
been misinterpreted also, but,
To use the prohibitions against the people and against the states, rather than the states restricting the feds. conflict between the no religious test clause in Article 6 and the prior religious test that 12 of the 13 colonies had,
Well, actually,
which eventually got trumped by.
They were gone long before the 14th
the
Amendment.
sixth is not in conflict with the first. They were all passed at the same time.
So you know what I'd like to do? This is good. I mean, and for those of you who are watching online, that's exactly what this class is all about. I'd like to pick this up after we go through the exam, and we can have some more coffee in the back and talk about that. Thank you. That's what I mean when I say that everybody in this class knows more about this stuff than I do, to you people out there. Okay, number 18. The idea of self-government is in the first 3 words of the Constitution. What are these words? We the people. That's right. Name one U.S. territory. This is, I thought, would educate some people.
Puerto Rico.
Samoa. Puerto Rico.
That's right. So Guam,
Virgin Islands.
Puerto Rico, Samoa, and the Virgin Islands. Now there are actually about there's about 11 other U.S. territories,
Almost all.
but these are the ones that actually have a permanent population, so are considered to be populated. But there are others in the Pacific and in the Caribbean, and most of them are just small atolls and small islands, that sort of thing, unpopulated. Actually, here's an interesting tidbit for all of you. 2 of those 11 others are actually administered by Colombia. I don't know how that came about. It's just a tidbit I picked up. All right, how many amendments does the Constitution have? 27. What did the Emancipation Proclamation do? There's a general and a more specific answer for this. So, it freed the slaves.
Federal territory plus.
Not under rebellion.
States,
Right.
Because those states were, their governments were null and void, and therefore they were under federal control
Right.
by their legal insurrection.
So the simple answer is it freed the slaves. In fact, it freed the slaves in states that were not under rebellion. I'm sorry, that were under rebellion. It freed the slaves in the Confederate States. Or, yeah, let's just leave it at that. If you said freed the slaves, you got free credit. You got credit. One, must all men register for the selective service? To tell you the truth, this is so far behind me. I kind of knew what it was, but
18.
yeah, 18 or
But
the.
I thought, I didn't think they had to do that anymore. They don't need to do it anymore.
They have to yeah, I think they do.
No,
No, I
They're
know
not
this
the
because I was
register,
just
you do.
around this period, okay? They ended
They
the
do.
draft, and then some years later, they revived selective service.
Yeah, so
what they did,
registration
they
is
ended
one thing.
conscription, but you had to have a draft card in case they wanted to bring back conscription, presumably because of a national emergency. And my age range was right between it, so I never had to register, and I never even had to have the stupid card because I was past that age window. when
The
they
actual
brought
age
back.
range is 18 to 26.
Yeah,
That's
I
the
know.
fuller answer to
So you
that.
still have to register.
Yeah, but I wouldn't know. I'm an old fart.
I didn't either, I didn't think you.
Do 18-year-old females have to register?
No,
Not yet.
no,
Not yet.
No.
that was a big controversy when they were
Oh,
trying
they'll
to
bring it
figure
back.
out what to do with the selective service system. And
Okay.
they didn't change it. So that was easy.
Question number 23. Now, this is a trick question. How many justices are on the Supreme Court? In theory and in actuality.
Right.
In
Does that
theory,
include the chief
Is anybody
justice?
still
it
listening?
includes the Chief Justice. That's right. There's 9. However, the question doesn't say how many justices should be on the Supreme Court.
Oh,
It
how many
says-
are
so-
currently?
No, the Constitution doesn't say how many justices, and it floated in the early days.
Right,
That's why
went everywhere from 6 to 10.
That's why the FDR could propose to pack the court in 37, because you just had to get it to Congress.
Right, so it doesn't say in the Constitution, but the question is how many justices are on the Supreme Court? The answer is 9. When was the Constitution written?
1787.
Ooh, September 17th,
Well, that's when it was
1787.
ratified or signed.
What now-
Okay,
what
they spent all
year?
summer,
Right.
1787. They
1787
spent
is
all
the answer.
summer in Philadelphia,
Right,
hashing it out.
and then they had to go through the campaign back in the States
Right.
to get it ratified. But it was written in 1787 at the Philadelphia Constitutional Convention, the first Constitutional Convention. And here's a repeat of that other question where it asks about what's the responsibility for American citizens only. Name one right only for United States citizens. And they give two answers:
To vote.
Vote.
vote in a federal election or run for federal office.
Oh, yes, okay.
Didn't think about that yet, right? And then the bonus question.
Yes.
Well, I wish there were some people here to really appreciate this one, because I would have forced them to write Donald J. Trump as well. All right, so I'm not going to ask what your scores were. You can go home and cheer or cry tonight in your own private bedroom. Is there anybody in this room? No, I don't think anybody should answer this question, who should not be a citizen here tonight. I don't think so. I think this group knows the score and knows these answers.
You know the score.
There's more coffee. I think we're going to sign off. I want to thank
Yeah.
all of our online audience. And what's this?
These are some questions, but the important part is,
What?
if you look at it here,
Congregational church was disestablished.
Oh, okay. Let me just tell you, by the way,
Later than I thought. Wow.
let me just tell you that
It's a Unitarian.
the reason that this has been in the news lately and came to my attention, as I'm sure most of you, is that recently there was a study by the Wilson Center in Washington, D.C., about how many Americans could pass the U.S. citizenship test.
And it's about what?
And I'm going to tell you, it was abysmal. It was abysmal. And it was even more horrific for young people. So what's been brought to me is some examples of some of these questions. So here's the test, and I can't read through all the 10 questions right now, but they include what do we call the first of 10 amendments, we elect a senator for how many years, and so on and so forth. So some of these questions we did here tonight, and some of them we didn't. But just let me give you an idea of how well people did on this. Only 26% of high school students answered the question about what's the first name of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. Only 11% of high school students answered how many years a senator is elected for. Only 23% of students answered who was the first president of the United States. Can you believe that only 23% of these students know who the first president of the United States was?
Sad.
Everybody knows it was Donald Trump.
One of my daughters actually told me it was Abraham Lincoln, swear to God.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Let me look at some particularly bad ones. Number 6. 10% of high school students answered this one correctly. That is, how many justices are there in the Supreme Court? And it's a multiple choice, 9, 13, 150. I'm just going to skip to one or two more. Only 14% of high school students knew who wrote the Declaration of Independence.
What grade was that?
Just says high
Four
school.
grades, doesn't say which.
And.
Number 10, which of the following is a right given only to U.S. citizens? So we had that one here tonight. Now, only they put it as a multiple choice, again, and the 4 choices are freedom of religion, freedom of speech, right to vote in federal elections, and freedom of assembly. That's question number 10. Only 41% of U.S. adults answered this correctly. Now, it's important to note that probably a major chunk of that, 59%, all reside in California. So that one really was not that bad. Thank you, everybody. Thanks to our online audience. We can all be Americans.